vì ya la lo lang tu yo lo lang tu vì ya xiao na lu neng thao y e de lao zhe ba mi ba.
Good evening, everyone. We are almost at the program timing, so if everyone can kindly return to their seats, grab your extra appetizers and refreshments, your drinks, and return to your seats. We'd like to start very promptly. I know tonight is a very, very busy night for all of us, and there is supposed to be more snow coming down, so we are just so grateful and so honored on behalf of Minnesota Zej Zog that you all found the time to come out for such an important gala as tonight. So if you can all make your ways to your seat, that would be very helpful for us to get started promptly at about 6:30. 我就能到你做你就多多啦，把这些些的你都做你都在给了人，都知道都人，中领导都朋友切的都把中领导多一点人得了，知道星期是报的呀。thời cho nên cái này giờ không soi cho soi vậy là một trong là đi lúc trong cái này giờ đi học là một trong là đi lúc trong để bé cũng yêu biết sẽ sai ở bên phần tây nào All right, good evening officially. Can I get a Xiong from everyone? I think we can do better than that. Come on now. Xiong. Okay, and I always tell my students, if you want to sound nicer, like you really mean it, you gotta add the aw to the end, okay? But not aw from the throat, because that's hello duck. You gotta just glide it right into the sounds. I'll let you know how that goes. Thank you, good evening. It's my honor to be here as MC for the night. My name is Phoojywj. Kulumbe gom being komongva itunia J sing more. Xiong shia de no to to oni to MC to Minnesota Zej Zog. Velu Hmong Minnesota Teachers Coalition. I'm so honored to be the MC for tonight's amazing event. If there's anything I love more than Hmong clothing, it's educators and all walks of academia, from all types of work and all line of work that we do. And it's because we give so selflessly over and over again, as we've seen during these COVID years that we've had, what teachers have had to step up, step in, and continue to do time and time again. So I'm honored to be here. Just a few quick housekeeping items. I'd like you to turn your phones down if you haven't already. So if you haven't already, I'd like you to turn your phones down. Tonight is really all about honoring and cherishing this space that we have together. I mean, how many times have you guys attended a gala very specifically to celebrate, to honor, to cherish, and to remember all the great work that all of our teachers have done? Have you guys? I haven't. This amazing space, right? I mean, we've had little units in little pockets of fun here and there, but never in this great amass of all these great minds and great thinkers and leaders coming together. And on top of that, we do have bathrooms. I think many of you guys have already found on your way in through the hallway. The bathrooms are right there. Also, if you parked at the Treasure Island Center ramp, which is connected to this building, you can get the $6 parking ticket either at the bar or at the registration table to use with your parking coming in, so that it could be the $6. But if you park anywhere else, then it's the usual rate. So I want to apologize about that first. And today we have for you, I have the agenda up here just so you have an idea of what's going to be happening tonight. We have our program that's going to be filled with just some amazing speakers from all walks of life that's part of our adventure in academia. And then and then we have a couple wonderful performances for you today as well. And then we will have a moment to honor our teachers and our educators for tonight. We are celebrating all of our educators tonight. And without further ado, before I begin today's agenda, I'd like to give a moment for the land acknowledgement as the Minnesota Hmong Educators Coalition recognizes and honors all ancestral stewards of the sacred land on which we inhabit today. Let this acknowledgement serve as a reminder of our ongoing efforts and responsibility to engage with and to amplify the voices of Indigenous peoples and tribes. We are so honored to be in Minnesota today because of all of the work that's come through, and to give acknowledgement to all of the Indigenous people, especially of Minnesota and of the U.S. And I'll give that remark real quick as a summary in Hmong, as we do have some of our elders and supporters and allies today that are here. Rừng kia hạt bên nhau trâu ilu tây khờ là bên nhau trâu kia là đại từ lúc sinh Minnesota nó ní mua này cho tin nên yên nhón thâu là bên của the indigenous people nó lấy nhón kia thế cho đại lo nó thâu là bên mua lúc xưa nó cho là rừng gì thế cho là ô là trâu cho thà ở bên nhau nó bù cho bên nó bên hậu thế bù cho bên tàu khử thế tàu sinh chi sinh bỏ rồi nó. And then without our wonderful sponsors and supporters, we could not have hosted such an amazing event to honor all of our educators and our supporters and allies of academia and educators for today. So I'd like to just take a quick minute to read off the list. Dr. Yer Moore Chiropractor Clinic, Vanguard MH and Wellness Clinic, New Millennium Academy, Education Involving, Minneapolis Public Schools, Minnesota Council of Asian Pacific Minnesotans, Givers of Dreams, You Care, Minnesota Hmong Early Childhood Coalition, Hope Community School, Dr. Cao Nu Moa, Mo's Tropical Fruits, MK Fruit Carvings and Cakes, as well as many of our miscellaneous donors. Thank you so much. Can we please give a big round of applause for those who made today happen. So many of our fruits that you've tasted from most tropical fruits, right? Decorations, to the support, to the funding of some of these amazing tablecloths, to decorations, has all been in part supported by all of our amazing sponsors and supporters for tonight. So thank you so much. And without further ado, our very first individual that's going to be up here is a really nice treat for all of you guys. I've heard this young lady play a couple of times already, and I've just really fallen in love with her music each and every single time. So I introduce to you Hillary Lore. She is a Hulusi flute artist. Hillary Lore is a Hmong American woman born and raised in St. Paul, Minnesota. She has played the flute for over 15 years and has performed for numerous community events. The flute is her voice to express her deepest thoughts and emotions, to touch the heart of others. Hillary enjoys exploring flutes from around the world, such as this one that she's playing for us tonight, which is the Hulusi flute. And she believes that music is health and healing everyone. Big round of applause to Hillary Lore.
Good evening, Yajong Shada, Galupe, Hillary, Taiko Mong Singmao, Ocharo Minnesota Hmong Educators Coalition, Tim Minnesota Zej Zog, Tena Tokyo sponsors, when they go to Chota Initiative I'm so honored and to be in this space filled with so many educators and leaders in our community. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being present each day for our young generation. Even for me, growing up, I was always so happy when I saw Hmong teachers, Hmong staffs. It was them who inspired me to be who I am today. So thank you so much. And the song I'll be performing is Tieshiro Daki. So I hope that you guys continue to have hope today, tomorrow, and always. Watch out.
Thank you so much, Hillary. Make sure that if you really enjoyed that, you connect and network with her to perform at some of your events as well. Her song's called Paj Hnub Ci, which means hope for tomorrow, which is so fitting for our event. And next, I'd like to introduce Chong Yang and Dr. Jenna Cushing-Leubner. These two amazing women are my heroes. They're co-executive directors of Minnesota Zej Zog. Pang is a dedicated multilingual veteran teacher and the mother of 7 children. Her 20-plus years of K-12 education in the classroom experience includes the teaching of English language learners and Hmong heritage language learners. Her expertise is the student-centered learning, amplifying student voices in language classrooms, and creating civic engagement opportunities to allow students, families, and community experts to thrive as they use language in authentic settings. Pang is a powerhouse who takes on the roles of a counselor, cultural navigator, parent educator, grant writer, and event coordinator, and an advocate for students of color. Dr. Jenna Cushing-Leubner was raised in the West Central Wisconsin and is an associate professor of multilingual education at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, where she specializes in heritage language reclamation education, curriculum theory, and language teacher education and professional development. She has spent nearly 11 years working with teachers and community knowledge and language keepers who are creating K-12 heritage language and ESL programs that emphasize community knowledge, identity work, language and educational justice, and transformative teaching. Her primary research approaches are community-driven and participatory. Her scholarship examines the relationship between settler, colonialism, racial capitalism, and language justice, and how displaced communities live out theories of change and world-making and collective actions that are driven by desires for a sustainable collective future. Please welcome these two amazing women to the stage.
Jenna Cushing-Leubner. I'm honored to be here tonight with so many incredible Hmong educators, language and knowledge keepers, and to also recognize so many of you from the work that you invited me to witness of yours over the years and that you will continue to do in the future. Thank you for letting me into your classrooms and your lives, and for many of you, your friendships. This room is filled with mentor teachers and master teachers, new teachers, future teachers, and exhausted teachers. We know you are, and we see you, and we are grateful for every single one of you. We're also grateful to the Hmong administrators who are with us tonight. Your insistence and persistence nourishes and supports our educators and programs, and you are a voice of reason and insistence in some very, very small and important rooms. I would also like to take a moment for those of us who are coming from the Harding High School community for what has been a terrible, terrible week, full of grief and loss and anger and fear. This is a grief that unfortunately many in this room are familiar with. The loss of a child, a loss that should never be felt. We'd like to ask that the room take a moment to hold Principal Phoojywj and her administrative team and let her know that she has the support and love of her community during this impossible time. When I was growing up, I had 2 best friends for a very long time, Xiong and Bao. When we were in 6th grade, Bao's family moved to Minnesota and she got married shortly after that, and I lost touch with her because I was a 12-year-old. It's impossible. When we were kids, I lost touch with her. It's possible that some of you may have known Bao, and unfortunately it's very likely most of you know her name because in March of 2021, she was in the news for being killed in a murder-suicide at home here in St. Paul. I think about Bao every day, and when I'm asked how I found my way into this work, there are many stories that I tell, because there are many ways that I've come into this work and have been invited to it, but one of the very first ways was through the love and friendship from C and Bao as a child. When we were kids, Bao and I were constantly together at school, in the hallways, doing math and reading, and every recess, we would walk in circles over and over around the North Elementary School in Menominee, Wisconsin. With every circle, we would talk and tell stories and laugh. Bao was an incredibly sweet and kind-hearted person. When I think about learning the art of listening, I think of the way that Bao would listen with her full and open heart. And when she would respond, it was clear she had your heart in her mind. I often ask the question to teachers and future teachers, what does it mean to create schools that are deserving of the children who come into them and spend so much of their days and lives in them? And that question can only be answered by those kids and the families who love them the best. And I know that all of you love your children the best that they could ever be loved. And I'm grateful that they have that in you, and when they come into their schools, they get to see you, be felt, feel the love from you, and spend their days and hours with you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. One of the first words of English that I ever learned when I came to America at the age of 4 was, I'm sorry, Bounthavy Thao. As long as I can remember, I have been saying I'm sorry all my life, even when I didn't need to. I'm a product of St. Paul Public School, Como Park High School class in 1994, and a teacher in Osseo area schools for the last 19 years. It was right before COVID when my fellow Hmong language colleagues asked, how could we stop when we just began the collaborative movement, breaking barriers in the last 2 years before, and found a network where we can all be authentic and mentor each other. This very question inspired Dr. Jenna and I to start the nonprofit, MN Zej Zog, at the beginning of COVID. MN Zej Zog was founded by board members who are made up of educators, parents, and youth. As you can see on the screen, next slide please. Since the last 5 years, MN Zej Zog has grown immensely due to the grassroots movements from the community. Furthermore, Hmong language teachers are one of the most dedicated heroes who work late nights and summers creating materials to ensure the Hmong language history and culture lives on for generations. This year marks the first time in Minnesota history where 20 Hmong language teachers will finally be licensed to teach Hmong as a world language, and many more less commonly taught language teachers to follow. Thank you to Dr. Cassandra Glenn of Concordia College Moorhead, Folsom Pelsby, and Education Evolving for your leadership in making this happen. For Hmong language educators who've been a part of the Zej Zog journey for the last 5 years, please stand up. You guys know who you are. CPB, Bounthavy Thao, you guys know who you are. Please stand up so we can give all of you guys a round of applause. And so, the work that you see here are the hardworking educators and community members. And at this time, I would like to bring up our Minnesota Hmong Educators Coalition Committee, who helped put this beautiful event together. So, my committee members, please come up, and you know what? This is time for us to say thank you for all the sleepless nights and work that you have put into the coalition this year. So let's welcome them up and give them a round of applause. We are missing Minju. She is not here with us. Okay, so this is our whole team. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Pang and Dr. Jenna. As you saw earlier, all the many circles, even with the work that I've done with Pang and Dr. Jenna from the very beginning get-go, until today, I did not clearly understand or was not able to grasp my mind around the amount of work that they were actually lifting upon their shoulders so that they could uplift all of us. And when they showed me that map, I was like, oh my goodness, thank you for making this crazy map, because it's as crazy as the work that you guys are doing. So we mentor teachers and we mentor new teachers. They find grants to help support teachers to continue their education. They do work with mental health. They believe in this vision that education doesn't start and end inside of a school building, that it begins at birth and it never ends, and it continues and continues, and we pass it on, and that's exactly what Minnesota Zej Zog has done, and I know will continue to do. So thank you so much for all that you two have done, and for everything that all of the Minnesota Zej Zog team has done. And next is another amazing, I'm gonna just keep saying amazing tonight, because I swear, you guys, I'm just so honored to be in this space, because all of our speakers are just really amazing, and I need to like find a new word, but I just love that word because they are all truly amazing individuals and all heroes of mine. Our next speaker, Kajai. For more than 2 decades, Kajai has been a social justice advocate who has built and led community organizing, public policy engagement, and development efforts locally, nationally, and globally. Since the mid-1990s, she has been a community organizer and an executive manager providing social services and advocacy for the protection of refugees and immigrants for a number of organizations, including Southeast Asia Resource Action Center in Washington, D.C., where she partnered with community-based organizations throughout the nation and Asian American civil rights groups to address gaps in educational achievements, to address the lack of segregated data, address economic and health disparities persistent in large sectors of the Asian American community. She co-founded several organizations such as the National Council of Asian Pacific Americans, National Asian Pacific American Women Forum, the Asian and Pacific Islander American Scholarship Fund, and worked very closely with the White House Initiative on Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. Again, another amazing speaker for tonight. Kajai Yang, please come to the stage, because you are our first keynote and you are also my hero. I'm always fangirling when I see this woman.
She's never at a loss for words, and if she is, she will start singing. So, and I just want to say I'm so pleased to be invited here tonight, especially by Pang and Jenna and the team. I first met Pang when I was at the Coalition of Asian American Leaders here in St. Paul, and I must say that, like we educators now are my heroes, because I learned so much about Hmong educators here in the state of Minnesota. In fact, we had the audacity of asking Bush Foundation to take us around the country to learn more about Hmong heritage studies. We get to Fresno at the Van Paul Elementary School, and we said to them, we want to know about your Hmong program. And they're like, well, our Hmong program is based on your St. Paul program. So we went all the way across the country just to learn that they have adopted all the work that Hmong educators have done in this state. So I'm so pleased and proud about that. The second, yes, applause please. You are pioneers. I really mean it. You are pioneers. The Hmong principals here, we often talk about, Hmong people are so successful. We point to the businesses, we point to the politicians, but the Hmong principals are the heroes. They manage students, they manage administrators, they manage millions of dollars, and we never acknowledge them. And so I'm so pleased that Minnesota Zej Zog is today really having these events so that you can acknowledge all the students, all the principals, administrators, and the teachers who work really hard. But I'm especially in love with the Hmong Heritage Studies teachers and program. There's so many of you here, I can't name all of you, but I know that you have become my, have inspired me a lot to think differently about our language and our people. And so you know who you are, you're sitting in the room, and I've learned so much from you. And we've taken you to the Capitol to testify, to be our base for the work that we've been doing. I'm so pleased to hear today my colleagues Alex and Danica, who are co-authors of a book, a report that we wrote on heritage language, that a law was just passed. It's going to be signed into law. So please stay in touch with Pang and Jenna, and they're going to send you information about that. But it's about licensure for a heritage language teacher. Again, this is really pioneering, and we must support and invest more on this. I'm not here to talk about that, though. I'm really here to, I'm supposed to be the keynote speaker, and she told me when it's 2 minutes, I'm going to have to get off the stage. But I just want to say that for those of you who know me, like V said in my bio, I have been working in the community in the nonprofit sector for 2 decades, or maybe more. I just want to say 2 decades, it makes me seem younger. And I often find myself in spaces where I am the only Hmong person, a refugee, and from Southeast Asia. Not in Minnesota, but everywhere else. When I say I'm Hmong, nobody knows who I am, right? And so I think it taught me to be a really fierce advocate, because even when I'm scared and I'm nervous and I'm shaking, I have to speak up, because that opportunity won't come again. So when Pang messaged me, and I was still traveling somewhere in Laos or Vietnam or Thailand over the summer, winter, I immediately said yes, because I love the educators here in Minnesota. But I wanted to just also share my journey a little bit, because I think it resonates with you. And I was thinking, oh, should I show all the data and things like that? And I'm like, oh, no, that's too boring. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my life, but I did add some data in there too, so don't be surprised. Can you go to the next slide, please? So here's a slice of my story, my journey. Racism in Wisconsin. In the 1980s, my family moved from Ohio, where we were resettled in 1976, to a small town in Wisconsin on the shores of Lake Michigan. Yeah, the other one, yeah. By that time, at the age of 10 or 11, I spoke English and started to interpret for my parents, my relatives, and writing checks to help them shop at grocery stores. How many of you have done that? Raise your hands. Yes. There we faced daily assaults of verbal and physical racist attacks. People would yell epithets at us as we walked down the street, threw raw eggs at our doors, windows, made prank calls at all hours to our apartment in low-income housing area, imitating foreign sounds like they were speaking Chinese or some unintelligible Asian language. At school, it wasn't any safer. My white friends would make fun of my cousins who had strong accents when they spoke English, then turn to me and say, no offense. I was offended, but I didn't know how to reply, so I just kept it to myself. My teachers could not pronounce my name, and when they tried, the other kids would laugh. I would hear kids say, kaka, yin yin, yang yang, which sounded terrible to my ears. It was not just the taunting, but the hateful tone made my name sound ugly and made me feel small. Soon I would begin to call myself Kay. Even my cousins started to call me Kay. It was just easier for everyone else, and I didn't have to face white people butchering my name. Looking back, this was when I started to withdraw. I became shy. Yes, I was shy at one time. And lost whatever confidence I had. That was in the 5th grade, the last time I got all A's in my academic career. There was no one to talk to about my fears. Teachers, none of whom were people of color, told me to ignore kids who were just being kids. In my mind, they acted more serious and hateful than children should. Decolonize my mind. In 1987, I started college at CU Boulder in Colorado. Next, please. No. Can you go back, please? Yeah. I was one of 3 Hmong girls who graduated from high school and wasn't married yet. This is 1987. I was basically a failure in my community, in my Hmong community, because of their expectations for girls. It wasn't until college that I started to be proud of myself and being Hmong. First, I learned from my mom that my name, Gang Ying, meant the goddess of fertility. Can you all say Gang Ying? No, you know it's a tonal language. We sing it, right? Gang Ying Miley, you're a heritage teacher, you know we sing this. It was given to me by the elderly healer we call Bounthavy, who gave medicinal herbs to my mom because she kept experiencing chronic miscarriages and conceptual failure. Bounthavy gave me this name so that my mom could have a dozen children like other Hmong women in Longjing. Sadly, it didn't work. My mom has only 2 children. She failed as a wife, according to Hmong standards. She suffered criticism from my paternal grandparents all her married life because she couldn't have any more children. They threatened her by urging my dad to marry a second wife. It wasn't until about 15 years ago that I linked my mom's diabetes to her weak fertility and reproductive health. Owning my name was the first step in understanding what it means to be Hmong. I started asking others what their names meant, and I learned so much about the Hmong world through that small exercise. In addition to traditional Hmong names like Nzat, Nzat, Dia, Yeah, there were Yamaha, Vinay, Superman, Wonder Woman, America, and Hmong. We name our kids after every village we live in, right? When I got to university, the first thing I did was look up books on Hmong. I found 3 or 4 old books hidden in shelves in dark corners of the huge library. The books were written by European researchers and still use the term male. I remember being disappointed that the world didn't know about us. I also took this as an inspiration to share our history from our own perspective. I was a struggling student in high school, so I was a terrible student in college too. I'm not one of those model minorities. However, I was learning so much, and the students around me opened my eyes to a new world. After majoring in journalism because of Connie Chong, how many of you know Connie Chong? Yeah, you're my age. Then international relations because I wanted to be a diplomat. I finally chose a more practical field, sociology, where I had teachers of color for the very first time in my life. The classes were interesting and relatable. We had robust discussions about everyday things that made sense to me. I learned from Latinx professors who were active in the migrant farm movement, migrant farm workers movement in California. I took ethnic studies and learned about Asian Americans' role in US history and about Black liberation movement from renowned Black professors. I joined debates in gender and feminism classes, sharing my own experiences. What stood out for me is that most of my professors were activists or movement builders themselves. They brought their full self into the classroom. It was never boring, and I look forward to going to classes. I began to have words and concepts like racism, inequality, gender justice, democracy, capitalism, social justice to describe my lived experience. And it helped me form my worldview, my values, and chart my future. My heart was so full, and I began to see a purpose in my life. Language and liberation. Slide 3. Next one. Nope, language. The map. There. I had all this knowledge and felt very empowered, but I was not fluent in Hmong. And in my new world on campus, I was the Hmong queen, educating my API and Black friends about refugees. But in the Hmong community, they were waiting for me to fail because a Hmong girl should not be living away from home and getting an education that didn't benefit her family or her community. Remember, this is 1987, 88, 89. The whispers always reached me, no matter how much I ran away from it. In the summer of 1989, I enrolled in the SIASI program. Do you all know what that is? Yeah. Southeast Asian Studies Summer Institute. The program was in Hawaii. For 8 weeks, I learned to read and write Hmong from 2 Hmong teachers, Li Phoojywj and Lao Pavang, they're still here, and a French linguist. Even though I always knew our language is beautiful and has a multi-rich background because I hear our elders talk, Haluza, Habanglu, Halunjo, Hatsatsai. It wasn't until I learned the language, dissected with my Hmong teachers, that I truly appreciate the depth and complexity of our language, as well as our people's intelligence. The ability to read and write Hmong meant that my vocabulary would expand. I could learn difficult cultural practices like Haluza, Hupli. I could write down the terminology, phrases, and memorize it. My teachers used all kinds of activities to teach us. They had a Monopoly game, all in Hmong. I hope you guys will create that. More than activities, they really liked to teach, were very funny and very innovative. Becoming fluent in Hmong was transformational. After I returned home, I started to value how language plays a critical and nurturing role in culture, especially in oral traditions. Language and history, how we adopted many vocabularies in countries and places that we have lived in some ways lost our own words and identity because of it. And now with my business, Red Green Rivers, Language and Arts, the beautiful creations by Hmong women to clothe us and protect us. Next, please. I had to put a plug in for myself, so. My first trip to Southeast Asia was 1991. And I have seen so many changes since then. Even the ability to wear Hmong has become an economic privilege, especially for our diaspora in the face of global economy. I invite all of you to see my exhibit in March about textile making. What does all this mean? I know I have the stop sign, but give me 2 more minutes. What does all this mean? I hope you see that my story is deeply embedded in my personal journey for cultural reclamation that is leading towards my liberation. To reiterate, it started with the decolonization of my mind by understanding the racism that I experienced as a young child. To ensure my identity, to erase the erasure of my identity through the mispronunciation of my name and absence of my history. My community's suppression of my right as a young woman to get an education. After I graduated, I became mentally and emotionally stronger. I gained social consciousness through my exposure to other communities' long history of racial and economic struggles in this country. I was also better equipped because of my knowledge of my language and culture, but especially because I gained respect for myself and my community. Reclaiming my identity through attaining my language, history, and culture while working in collaboration with other communities of color is what it took to become that passionate advocate for my community and myself that you see all the time. One of the major threads in this journey is my teachers. They all made a deep impact on me. The ones that were perpetrators of cultural erasure and white supremacy didn't kill my spirit. Instead, they fueled me to keep searching for humanity in other teachers. The teachers of color, especially the ones who taught from their lived experience in activism, were my beacon of hope and instilled in me a sense of pride and purpose. Next slide, please. I know I am singing to the choir. I am often invited to speak on college campuses and public schools. Unfortunately, most of my Hmong students are still experiencing what I lived through 30 years ago. This slide says 71% of Hmong surveyed indicated that bullying is still a very serious problem. This is why I want to remind you that as Hmong educators, you have an extra responsibility beyond teaching to students to read and write. Your role is to help them decolonize their mind and serve as that beacon of hope that I long for when growing up. Slide 6, I'm going faster. This is necessary because now the majority of Hmong Americans in the US are US born. Unlike when I was growing up, did you know that only 43% of Hmong are foreign born? And our population is very young at 23.9. So that means 60% or more are US born. We need Hmong teachers and educators to be that bridge from the past to the future. Next slide. Our students are lagging behind because they are facing social and cultural challenges that systemic racism creates. It's not because they are not smart. You all know this. In states with large Hmong populations, Hmong teachers can also serve as bridges for other culture, from one culture to another. And in today's world, where English-only policy and political division are putting our children at risk of losing their home language, we need to invest in heritage language and grow Hmong teachers the way that Minister Zej Zog is doing right now. We must work with other communities of color to fight for ethnic studies from K through 12 To do this effectively, we need to know the history and culture too, so that we can be strong allies. Internationally, even in countries where there are large Hmong populations, Hmong language is not supported or allowed to be taught. In oppressive regions, wearing Hmong makes you a target for discrimination. For some of our brothers and sisters abroad, speaking and being Hmong is an act of resistance and decolonization daily. We know this from our elders and their long history of genocide. Almost done. So in this country where we have relative freedom to be ourselves, let's not hold back. Educators hold a powerful tool to de-weaponize language and cultural suppression. To ensure that education is truly the equalizer, embrace your power and influence in all aspects of your field, not just in the classroom. Today's purpose is a networking event. In my world, we call it community power building. Let's be intentional and leverage each other's power because our students need it. In addition to the students, do it for yourself because we need to see your whole passionate self in front of the classroom. Together, we can collectively liberate our community from all the traumas hovering over us. Thank you for listening. It's an honor to be among you.
Thank you so much, Xiong. I continue to be inspired and re-inspired every single time I hear you speak. Thank you. And thank you for honoring us in this space and all of the educators and our supporters and allies for being here today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, next we have Minnesota State Governor Tim Walz. He could not be here today due to other agendas. So he has sent a video for us, and we're going to quickly just play that for all of us today.
Governor Tim Walz here. Although I can't join you in person, I'm happy to be with you in spirit. As a former educator and as governor, it's my honor to celebrate the many Hmong educators here tonight. You've all worked tirelessly to ensure Minnesota students have a better, brighter future. This legislative session, my office is working to build connections with our stakeholders and legislators to provide funding for teachers from underrepresented communities and to support native language revitalization grants. Through this work, I hope we can lift up a new generation of Hmong educators that will honor the legacies of those gathered here tonight. Again, I'm grateful to all the educators gathered today and the foundations you're laying for our children's future. Thank you.
Thank you to Minnesota State Governor Tim Walz, who's also a champion of education educators as well. And next we have Willie Jette, Minnesota Commissioner of Education. Commissioner Jette was born in Minneapolis and graduated from Osseo High School. He graduated from the University of Illinois at Chicago and received his master's degree in education from the University of Pittsburgh. He served as a teacher and coach in the Anoka, Hennepin, Minneapolis, and Osseo public school districts. He was also a principal in Hopkins Public Schools, assistant principal in Osseo Public Schools, assistant superintendent at St. Paul Public Schools, and most recently, superintendent of St. Cloud Public Schools for 9 years. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Commissioner of Education, Willie Jette.
So good evening. And first and foremost, I'd just like to echo the governor's message. But before I get going, they always tell you not to follow a keynote speaker. And in this case, I just wanted to say I was honored. I felt fortunate. I learned a lot. And it provided me with access and opportunity and a different perspective. And I thrive on that, and I believe all of us in Minnesota, and especially our students, deserve that. So, first I'd like to take this moment to thank the Hmong Educators Coalition and the Council on Asian Pacific Minnesotans for the invitation to take part and to celebrate this wonderful occasion. Even though it's a snow blizzard type night, but I'm happy to see some Osseo folks out in the back. Oh, there they go. As you see, you can't take them anywhere. And also some St. Paul folks. So it's just nice to see some friendly faces and just enjoying that. I'm honored to be here tonight, and I look forward to working together to provide our students with a world-class education that truly prepares them to succeed. For many people want to know, what does that mean? For me, I would just like to say before I get going, we all know how important tonight's theme is for students and families around the state who wish to see their cultural heritage and rich histories valued and reflected in their schools. As a student years ago in the Osseo schools, I've always thought that has lacked all across the state of Minnesota, no matter what you look like, to be able to see yourself reflected in books, curriculum, staff, people. That is something that we need to work on every day. We expect curriculum and teaching practices to be inclusive of diverse perspectives and experiences. This has everything to do with providing this world-class education that prepares students to succeed academically, to heal from within, and to develop the necessary social and emotional resiliency skills they need to lead effectively in challenging times. As educators, you play an important role in achieving this bold vision for our state's education system. I have to make sure that I don't see the sign that says you have 2 minutes to stop. For me, tonight is about celebrating your dedication and your success. You are passionate advocates, mentors, and change makers who go above and beyond to give your students an educational experience that weaves together the various dynamics of student life with academic expectations as the foundation of learning and growing. So tonight is also about recognizing the challenges that stand before you as educators of color. We are here tonight because your leadership and your sacrifice have not gone unnoticed. I'm just proud to live and work in Minnesota and to work with you. I know we have the best educators our generation has to offer, and I'm so glad that you're part of that best educator force. And so again, I would just like to thank you, and if I can be of assistance, whether it's me, whether it's MDE, if I can be of any assistance, just let me know. Thank you for the invitation. Travel safe tonight.
Obviously, we know Minnesota Commissioner of Education, Willie Jette, that you're much taller than me because when I walked onto the stage, the mic was at my forehead. Thank you so much for your great remarks, and thank you so much for being a champion of educators and education alike, from all of our students and families alike. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a couple elected officials that are here tonight, taking time out of their very busy schedule, elected officials and community leaders as well. And we also have a few more that I was not aware of that are also here tonight, so I'm super excited about that. I'm gonna list our elected officials and community leaders, and then a few of them are going to come up and have a minute or two of just special remarks to support and encourage our educators to continue the work that they're doing. Because we know that all of us in here are so proud to be products of educators and the education systems that have supported us. So here tonight we have Representative Ethan Cha, Commissioner Mai-Chong Xiong, State Senator Susan Pa, State Representative Kelly Her, City Councilwoman Nelsie Yang, and Executive Director Sia Her. And this is the Executive Director of the Council of Asian Pacific Minnesotans. So thank you so much for all of you taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us. Let's give them a round of applause. And can you guys come up here and just use a minute or two, don't take too long, because Miss Shua over here, I've assigned her tonight to be my timekeeper, and I said, Shua, you keep us on schedule, because we're all teachers and we got virtual learning tomorrow and we gotta go home. And she's been doing a fantastic job, so thank you, Shua, and I'm so sorry if you feel a little rushed, but we want to respect all of your time. So
So whenever you give legislators a mic, they're never short. But I promise I will be. So I was really excited to be here with all of you because education is really important to me. Unlike Kajai, who really learned to embrace herself early on, I actually didn't learn Hmong when I was younger because in my generation in Kajai, it was not encouraged. And so having been somebody who was an ELL student, and I remembered when I first started dreaming in English, I used to dream in Hmong. And then when I was in middle school, I stopped dreaming in Hmong and I started dreaming in English. And I realized that English had become my first language at that point. And so it was really important for me that when I got to the legislature that I remembered to bring educators along with me. And so I actually am the chief author of the ELL bill, which is to fully fund English language learner education and also get rid of the cross subsidy, which I think is really important for the work that needs to get done here. But additionally, that there are 10 legislators. You can clap for that, that's a good thing. And that we continue to fight for all of our legislators, and that it's not, we've asked a lot out of you the last few years, and that we're not just asking you to educate our children, but we're asking you to be therapists and counselors and parents and healthcare providers. We're asking you to do so many things, but we're not fully funding education. And the truth is whether you teach K through 12 or you're higher ed, the state, we fund all of that work. And we have not done a good job in investing in our education. And so we need to continue to acknowledge and see that our teachers need support. So we've actually introduced bills that provide culturally competent counseling in schools and mental health support within schools. We started funding, we have a Teachers of Color Act in which we're funding more teachers of color to come into doing this work. And we're also funding special ed, so SPED, because we also need to get rid of the cross subsidy in that as well. And that we know that in order for you all to do your job, we have to actually invest in the tools. And I just want to say one last really quick thing in that. The power of the legislature is that we can ask our departments to get us information. And I'm so glad that Commissioner Jette was here because last year, before you came in, we did ask for MBE to disaggregate data for our Southeast Asian, for our Asian American community. And what we saw was that our Hmong kids, after the pandemic, our Hmong kids and our Karen kids were only 15% proficient in math and 30% proficient in English. That is really low. And so our goal is to say, we have a lot of catching up to do. How do we invest in the educators who are doing this work? And how do we ensure that all of you have the resources that you need to educate our children? Because we're not just educating now. We are actually catching children up who are years behind now in their education. And so thank you all for what you do. We could not do what we're doing without hearing your voices and the contribution that you are making, what you are seeing every day in the classroom. And so we'll continue to fight for you. We'll continue to work at advocating for what you all need. So it's an honor to be here with all of you tonight. And I'm going to turn it over to our other individuals here. But I think Commissioner Maipacher, I don't think she was, did they call your name out? I just want to make sure. So Commissioner Maipacher was already also here too, and then I just want to also call out because Representative Ethan Cha is a Minnesota State Representative. He's also the chair of the Minnesota Asia Pacific Caucus, and so he's actually the chair of the 10 AAPI legislators in Minnesota here, and we are one of the largest AAPI legislature in the country. So outside of California and Hawaii. That means that we have a lot of power to do a lot of good, and we're going to do that. We are in session now, which is why I showed up in jeans. I'm really sorry. You all look fabulous and beautiful. Thank you for doing the work you do and still looking beautiful and fabulous. So thank you so much.
Well, I'm going to second that message that Representative Hurst started us off with, and that's that when you give the microphone to someone in political office, they're going to take a whole lot more time than you intended to give them. Then I'm also going to say, Representative Hurst, you're in good company because I'm wearing these shoes. So I will ask that you indulge me because I think this event tonight is way too important for me to just speak off the cuff. So I do have some prepared remarks, again, because we're sitting at a point in time where the work you do has taken on a greater level of significance than ever before. So for those of you who may not know me, my name is Sia Hur, and I serve as the Executive Director at the Council on Asian Pacific Minnesotans. That's a state agency that was created by the Minnesota legislature. It is housed within the executive branch of government, and I'm in my 10th year as Executive Director, and I hail from Como Park Senior High. I see some of the teachers here in the audience. Thank you for the great work that you've done. Again, it's an honor to join all of you here tonight to really celebrate and recognize the important work that you've been doing, and specifically the work that you've been doing as Hmong educators. We know that education is the cornerstone of so many elements to a successful future for all of our students, professionally, economically, and as we are coming to know better than ever before, increasingly emotionally. I'd like to just take a moment to recognize the increased burdens we have placed on all of our educators over the last 3 years as our community has endured the stresses and tragedies of the pandemic, the increase in Asian hate, the mental health toll that these challenges have taken on our students, on you as educators, on our communities, and on our state. Whether you work in primary, secondary, higher ed, or early education, you have taken on the work not just of educating our students and our youth, but you've been serving at the forefront of these challenges. And so in every way possible, you have been the bedrock of our community. We cannot say this enough tonight and everywhere else. Thank you so much for all that you have done, for all that you will continue to do for our communities and for the great state of Minnesota. At the Council, we are only too aware of the importance to students of having access to teachers who look like them and who have in common with them shared life experiences. By serving as unapologetically Hmong educators, you are doing the important work of closing our state's persistent achievement gap, filling our educational workforce shortages, serving as an example and role model for our students, and so much more. All of this, of course, only begins to scratch the surface of the important work you do in our communities. So tonight, in spite of the weather, I hope that you can all relax, take a step back, and feel how much the rest of us in state government recognize the important contributions that you have made and of course will continue to make to the great state of Minnesota. So thank you for your indulgence, and I will turn it over to the Commissioner.
Thank you. It's truly an honor to be here with you all tonight. Some people can't read the Chong when it's written in English, right? So they pronounce it very differently, but it's Xiong, Xiong. I was just recently elected to the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners, and I get to represent District 6, which is entirely the east side of St. Paul. And this is historic, that as the first Asian person to serve on the county board, I'm reminded about the struggles that you all have had too as being the first. I remember in high school for myself, I had a high school advisor to the first Asian club that we had. This was at Roseville High School. And I don't know if she's in the room, but her name is Yang Chang at Roseville Area High School. And she talked about the emotional toll. She was the only Hmong person. And she was leading and advising the first student Asian club there. And we were doing big things. We had ambitions to have the first flag football tournament with women and with girls and with boys. And that was just so impactful. So I just want to acknowledge that being the first, we're charting a territory that we haven't before. But I'm just always reminded that there have been people who came before us and that our ancestors made it possible for us. So I just wanted to hold that moment here today and just say that, because I would not have imagined to have been running for office. Kajai, your story really resonated with me. And that was when I was born in '88. That story still resonated with me. And what motivated me to run is that we need to change the trajectory for our kids. And we're also seeing data that our second generation of Hmong students are doing as well as the first generation, or the ones who were foreign born. So those are the things that I'm reminded of. And at the county level, we don't exactly touch what the school does, but we touch the places in between, where the families are. Housing stability, mental health support, child care assistance, food support, all those things that make families stable and help students come to school ready to learn. So that falls, I also have as being on the board, I get to serve on the Children's, St. Paul Children's Youth Collaborative. That's where we do grant making to a lot of organizations that support students. The Ramsey County Mental Health Collaborative for the youth too. And those are all the things that, and spaces that I'm in, and that's why I'm just holding very tightly about how we support our youth during these times when access to gun violence is so readily, when they're facing gun violence, they know about where their emergency exits are. Those are all things that dawns on me, and I just really hold very deeply the Harding School community during this time, and that in any way possible, we need collaboration all the way from federal to the state to local levels here to partner with one another. And I'm just so thankful for the time and honored to be given the time to speak to you all here today, and that look to me as a partner in your work together. Thank you.
So my name is Ethan Shaw, State Representative from Woodbury 47B. I'm the first BIPOC and API person to be elected to the state office of Minnesota, representing East Metro, Minnesota. I'm a product of the Minnesota's public school system. I went to Webster Magdalen Elementary School. And I'm so honored to be here and have an opportunity to remark. And we're able to be here because the state capitol will be closed for the next 3 days because of the storm. I'm here on behalf of the Minnesota Asian Pacific Caucus of Legislators. That's a makeup of 7 House state members and 3 state senators. We are the lawmakers at the state capitol, and 9 of us are Hmong descent and 1 Japanese American, the very first Japanese American to serve the state of Minnesota. Of the 9 of us, 6 of us are refugees from Thailand and from Laos. I am a refugee. I came here when I was 4. I just want to highlight some of our members here. As you know, Representative Gully Hur is here today. But what she didn't mention is that she is the Minnesota State Pension Commissioner, managing $125 billion of your money. St. Paul teachers' pension and the TRA. And then we also have Representative Samantha Sensimira, who is sitting on Education and Finance Committee. We have Representative Samantha Bang, who is the chair of Agriculture, and she also sits on Higher Education Committee. And then we have Senator Susan Pa, who is the vice chair of the MAP caucus, with Senator Phong Her, who is the assistant majority leader and the chair of Legacy. We have Representative Phu Lee, who is the chair of Capital Investment and Bonding. And then we have Representative Xiong, who is the chair of Workforce Development, and Representative Liz Lee, who is assistant majority leader, along with Senator Tushong. So when I say to you that they are the chair of Agriculture, chair of Pension, it means there's no one except them at the gavel, and they are the chair of the committee. So Chair Bang Her is the chair of Pension. That means she chairs 7 senators and 7 House members that sits on the Pension Committee. So you have partners, you have allies, and you have fellow Hmong Minnesotans sitting at the top level of government to service you. We are here for you, and we're here today for you. And reach out to us because we need to take this one step further. So thank you.
I'm Nelsie Yang. I'm the council member in the East Side of St. Paul, and I'm the first Hmong American woman and the youngest person to be elected to the St. Paul City Council. I want to say thank you so much to Minnesota Zej Zog, to all of our Hmong educators and educators overall, because I know that there are many non-Hmong educators in the room here today too. It's because of you all that all of us here have ever even dreamt of becoming elected officials, have ever dreamt of becoming leaders, because you are the ones who were the first leaders for us. And I say that based on my own personal experience, because I still remember when I first met my first Hmong teacher. To our students, it matters that they see you in front of the room or in the classroom, that they see someone who understands the story of their family, who understands the stories and struggles of their people, and who will work to make sure that they are centered in the classroom and that their hopes and dreams, even if other folks didn't believe that they can make it, you believe that they can make it, and that's what matters. So I want to say thank you so much to your work. You are not only, I think a lot of people say young people are the leaders of tomorrow, but that's not true. Young people are the leaders of today. And so I want to say thank you again for your work. To me, I still remember, again, my first Hmong teacher. And if you're in the room here today, I want to ask you to stand up. My first Hmong teacher was Miss Song Bang. She taught me at school, she taught me at Shingle Creek Elementary. She taught me how to read and write Hmong, and she also taught me Hmong dance too. And then the next teachers, they were over at Park Center Senior High. Pang Yang. Pang, why don't you stand? I know you're here. And then also, Miss May Bang Swanson. She was a math teacher. She wasn't even my math teacher, but I saw her and I felt a deep connection. And I went to her, and she taught me the struggles, the things that I was stuck with in math. She was willing to take time to go through it with me. And also, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge Linda Yang. Oh, Linda Cha. Linda, stand up. Linda, even though she is not a licensed Hmong educator, Linda started CLIMB, which was a youth leadership program, and so many Hmong leaders came out of that. So I want to say thank you to the four of you. Thank you to all of you. As we work to make sure schools are fully funded, that you have what you need in your schools, I want to say continue doing what you're doing. We will be here to support you all the way. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much to all of our elected officials and all our community leaders. Pang, Dr. Jenna, Pang, I hope you guys were taking notes at the table about where we're gonna get the money for the next gala and the next grants and the next educational initiatives from birth to no end. Sky's the limit. All right, thank you so much. And ladies and gentlefolks, we have been sitting for a bit now, so don't stand up, but turn your heads towards this way. Do not stand up, but turn your heads towards All right. Without further ado, we have a special treat tonight. Miss Bounthavy Thao. She is a Lutsa artist. But not only that, Bounthavy Thao is known affectionately as Phoojywj. She has been teaching for over 30 years. She is currently the Hmong Community Cultural Specialist at Bayland Lake Hmong Studies Magnet School. Phoojywj was instrumental in the creation of the first Hmong dual language program in the United States and has written over 100 children's books and over 50 Hmong folk songs. Her life's passion is teaching and inspiring through the power of language and culture. Ladies and gentlemen, please, round of applause to welcome Ms. Bounthavy Thao.
Lo to xong nó về quỷ xe lầu cái gì nữa họ ở của lâu đó giờ họ của trong xe chấp lờ giờ bỏ này cho lùa tiền nó này lo tua nên dễ thì tiền nhà nên thấu mà bây giờ lò bây giờ chờ thì cái bây là rong đi má xua nó nè để xí cho nó chỉ này cho lùa nên rong gọi đi má xua rồi họ nói cho họ trong xe chấp lờ lâu nên bỏ này cho tu luận sai lúa lo tua nên Jane nên这问题我脑子呢要 I was told I only have 3 minutes so I better get going so nó cũng có hai chắc cái chia ya mong san nữa đó bây giờ plan đó just happened that the quan giang có điểm mong san nữa chứ nè so cũng lúc xưa cũng có xíu số mong san nữa đó họ thì bây lúc số mong san nữa blo rồi nè chỉ muốn lúc tư chúa cho tụ hai là sựนั้นnhau bây giờ nên thì cú chỉ sự thì lúc xong ta là cú chỉ nhau có xìa thì cho nó cho cú tí lên thì bao hai lúc số nó sự thì cú yêu hai cái xìa cú chỉ cho xong bài thế thì hai tàu trong đi cho là bây là gì à nè okay right oh and chắc cái chuyện nó cú sâu trong này nó cú sâu ya ta thâu râu cú hai ra cái chuyện nó hai trong này nè okay cú sao thì cú chỉ hai trong này nó cú yêu chỉ mua any other opportunities thì rồi nó như là rồi cú tao hai thì cú hai trong này sẽ đâu and cú show especially to you vì la lo lang tu yo lo lang tu vì ya sao nó lu này thao ý để lao cho bà mi bà mà ta chỉ đông chỉ là
Thank you so much, Phoojywj. I don't know how to Hakatsiya, but I do teach a little bit. I only teach structure, not the practical, artistic piece of it. I'm gonna tell you, here's what I tell my students. Kajai or Lutsa is like the best rap battle you ever heard in your life, times a million more. And majority of our elders, they did it on the fly. They didn't have to study it, to practice it, to memorize it. They did it on the fly. And often they'd answer each other. So this is how amazing it is. So thank you so much, Phoojywj, for gracing us with your beautiful voice and your art. Thank you. And next, we have our next keynote speaker, Ms. Chong Yang. Chong Yang was born in Luang Prabang, Laos. Her family immigrated to St. Paul, Minnesota in 1980, where she lived with her mom, Bai Vang, and siblings Yang and Kua. Chong attended St. Paul Public Schools and graduated with her bachelor's degree in English and history and master's degree in education from the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. Chong was a teaching specialist for the University of Minnesota and taught high school English language arts in St. Paul for the last 25 years, where she currently lives. She is the culturally responsive instruction coordinator with the Office of Teaching and Learning in the St. Paul Public Schools District. Chong volunteers in various capacities to improve social conditions and public education. She is a social justice advocate, a community organizer, and a mother of 3 wonderful daughters. Please welcome Ms. Chong Yang.
nhớ rằng我是用些天我就到西服Bounthavy个这个见的嘛我的故用些天也些天考些天我就用现在到时的这古镇你梦嘛呢他只呢只有点嘛古有就还有梦都被是的都那是的但是都可的古还有梦是出给古中也里cái những thế tan thọ của giáo phong như thế nào đó là hạt tiền là tôi lo tới cho mình cái là chỉ là chính giáo cá bên lục mong là chỉ của giáo hai lúa kỹ mình chỉ thôi này thật gì ra gì đó cô. Good evening, fellow Hmong educators, friends, allies, family members. Thank you, Hmong Minnesota Educators Coalition, for giving me this opportunity to speak to you tonight. As the event flyer aptly states, our gathering is 40 years overdue. We are here tonight for what I call the Black Panther effect. That if we want to make visible the historically invisible, then we must do it ourselves. For despite the dire national need for educators of color, we educators of color continue to be unseen. Hmong educators, I see you tonight. Stand up. Stand up if you were born in Laos or Thailand. This makes you first generation. Give it up for our pathfinders and trailblazers. Stand up if you came to America between the ages of 6 through 12. This makes you 1.5 generation. Give it up for our culture straddlers. Culture straddlers. Stand up if you were born in this country. Give it up for our hyphenated Americans. Hyphenated Americans. Stand up if your parents were born in America. Yes. This makes you third generation. Give it up for these Americans. You may be seated, sir. Many of us here are diaspora people, first or 1.5 generation Hmong and born in this country, not born in this country. We have lost much. People, identity, sense of safety, belonging, and home. Tonight, I want to talk to you about home. Who has heard of this before? Yaka. Choice to many of our parents is a pre-written single sheet of paper. They simply follow the written story like unraveling a scroll until it runs out. Our parents may look at the written story and perhaps with joy or regret at the hand that they have been dealt with and not in the choices they had to make. To many of us and our children, choice is a clean sheet of paper on top of a pile of other papers, blank sheets of papers, in which we can choose to write our story. Once the paper is filled, we may stand back to look either with gratification or criticism. Then we may take this sheet of paper, scrunch it up, and throw it away to start anew on yet another sheet. Age will be our teacher when the results of starting fresh produce smaller piles of paper. This happens. My mom is my greatest teacher. One of her moral questions to my siblings and me is, are you being useful? My writing heroes have said that the world is the world without a name or nationality, that we give our mountains, rivers, and valleys names, not because the world is lost to us, but that we are lost to the world. They say that once you leave home, you can never return again. I tell you that home is not where we lay down our roots and grow old. Rather, home calls to us and pulls us to it, whether it is where our people reside or where we find ourselves to be accepted and most useful. For me, it has been in education as a high school English teacher for the last 25 years. My story is the story of many of you in this room. In 1977, my family and I left Laos to escape communist persecution to find ourselves in a Thai refugee camp. My family and I settled in Ben Nam Yao, one of the 2 first refugee camps in Thailand. For 3 years in this camp, my family lived without direction or hope. Hope found me in the sound of a school bell. From inside the barbed wire fence of the camp one day, I saw a Thai teacher call her students to class. The teacher was the epitome of poise and dignity in a white button-top shirt and dark bottoms, as were her students, who were lined up with books tucked neatly underneath their arms, and entered the schoolhouse. I declared then that I would be that teacher one day. I marvel now at my own power at the time when few in the camp had it. The sun rises and sets many times. My family and I settled in St. Paul, Minnesota, where I excelled in education. And unlike a Yang who said, you struggle. Absolutely, you struggle. I was the minority, I think, because I also faced racism and discrimination, and I used that as fuel to excel. And so did my brother and my sister. My first and only teaching position for the last 25 years has been as a high school English teacher in St. Paul. My induction into the profession was to be told by 2 of my department colleagues that I was an affirmative action hire. Perhaps I echo many of your experiences when I say that I was mistaken for interpreter, education assistant, math teacher, outsider. And so began my journey to prove myself of my place as a teacher of English. I followed a familiar immigrant framework. I assimilated. My identity was reduced to the operating ethos that if whiteness is rational, logical, civilized, successful, and normal, then Hmong is irrational, exotic, other. I turned up my white dial. My colleagues complimented my sophistication and knowledge in the content. I was safe. I hid my Hmong identity from my colleagues and students, especially my Hmong students. and wallowed in self-loathing and imposter syndrome. I know you can relate to this, people in this room tonight. I set out to prove that I belong in front of them, but more importantly, that I belong in front of white students. I was afraid to show my Hmong. I can trace the origin of this shame to my American education. From kindergarten to college, just like a Ying's example, just like so many of you probably could resonate with, my culture, language, history, and lived experiences were absent. It was as if I sprouted from the ground with no roots. No scholarship, research, or shaman could find me in the curriculum or in the people in charge of my education. I was what our parents feared to become, a lost spirit, hungry and impoverished. In the meantime, I saw my Hmong identity through the shared BIPOC experience of trauma, colonization, and racism. Essentially, I knew who I was not, but not who I was. During my early years of teaching, I made little connection with Hmong students as they floundered and failed my classes. Observing the customary respect towards teachers, Hmong parents regarded me because my face looked like theirs. But just as the white world dispossessed me, I was a Mika to Hmong parents. I was of their flesh and bones, but not their own. Staying true to my teacher training, where I was supposed to be the transmitter of knowledge and objective sage on the stage, I sanitized the identity of my Hmong culture. I shared little of myself and did not create space for my students' lived experiences. I taught mostly advanced classes with few students of color representation in these classes, despite the school's majority BIPOC student population. I had proven my place at the teaching table at the expense of all of my students, but my self-loathing had manifested especially in the neglect of my Hmong students. A defining moment was when Paul, one of my Hmong students, told me that the first time he saw me, he thought I was a mikya, a whore. I wasn't Hmong, he said. Now I could write off Paul's choice as a word as disrespectful, cluttered Hmonglish, or straight up misogyny. Perhaps what my student could not elucidate in behoring me was this: I had sold my culture, sold my identity, sold my soul. In denying my Hmong identity, I had sold out. Experience and confidence in the classroom eventually coaxed my Hmong to show. I started greeting my students, all my students in Hmong, and watched them do double takes in a combination of surprise and suspicion. In the lesson on Tim O'Brien's book, The Things They Carried, I talked about my father's service in the CIA's secret war and my family's exodus from Laos. I cried in front of my students. Like that proverbial river my family crossed to safety and loss, my tears flowed with some embarrassment, but without shame. In multiple and various ways, I continue to incorporate the Hmong story and myself into the curriculum and invited students to do the same. In doing so, I bridged my students' identities with the curriculum and gave them the language to talk about their own learning. I had begun my journey into culturally responsive teaching, although I didn't know that it was called that at the time. I created in my classroom a community where students could experiment with learning, bring their linguistic and home culture, challenge me, teach me as I teach them, but never act the fool. Through culturally responsive teaching, I taught my students how to code switch, where they were navigators of their own destiny, writers of their own story. I became the teacher I searched for all my life. I am a gardener, and I think in plants. A Buddhist proverb says, to plant trees under whose shade you do not plan to sit. Recently, I've transitioned into a different teaching role as my school district's culturally responsive instruction coordinator. As CRI coordinator, I am tasked with changing the hearts and minds of my district. This, as you can imagine, is difficult and gradual, but not impossible. In this role, I am watering the seedlings planted by the pathfinders such as Kajai and others like her. Our desired state of closing the racially predictable academic achievement, and with it the economic, social, and human rights gaps, may not fully be realized in my lifetime, but I am willing to do the work with you. You are here tonight because you are all gardeners. You plant trees. In my role as CRI coordinator, I have come nearly full circle from my assimilationism into whiteness to teaching education leaders to meet students where they are as wholly cultured beings. My mom's sacrifice in order to give me a pile of blank papers on which to write my story has freed me from the cultural shackles so I can return to it by choice. In the same way, one must leave home to find it. The Spokane and Coeur d'Alene writer Sherman Alexie tells the story of the day he opened his math textbook in a math classroom on the reservation to find that that textbook was in fact used by his mother in her youth. He realized then how outdated his education was and decided to leave the reservation to get what he thought would be a better education. To do so, he said, he had to leave the reservation for the white world and betray his tribe. I wonder how many of you tonight has had to betray your tribe in order to sit here this evening. As I look around in this room, however, I am not the only one that looks like me, which has often been my experience in the spaces I've entered, and I heard that echoed in Kajai's speech, and probably many of you, I'm telling your story. It is our story. Right now in this room full of Hmong educators, which includes my beloved brother Chong Yang, who sits over here, my other hero and co-conspirator to change the world, I feel home. Another Buddhist proverb says, rice cannot grow in the desert. Were I in Laos, I would not be the woman I am today, actualizing through education. Education allowed me to change my social station, find my voice, and write my story. I hope to inspire my students to do the same. I am a teacher, and I still believe that no matter who you are and what background you come from, you can make of yourself what you wish through education. So, stand up if you are an educator. Stand up if you believe that education is still the great equalizer. In education, I find myself to be useful. I am a teacher. Here, I have set down roots and found home with you all. Here, we are no longer diaspora people, but resident envoys. Lojea, welcome home. And to those of you who are worried about the blizzard out there, we crossed the Mekong River, man. Recognize. Thank you.
wow, right? Simply wow. What did I tell you about the word great? Told you guys, the word great, the word amazing just keeps coming up over and over. Another round of applause. I felt like I just heard like a deep, deep poem that woke my soul. Thank you so much, Chong Yang. As Minnesota Zej Zog continues to champion and rally for funding to help support teachers become culturally responsive educators towards getting Hmong language, Hmong culture, teacher licensure. We will be doing and continuing to do more work with Chong Yang and with others in the community, so thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, we did promise to get you guys out of here by 8, but we have just we have 2 more performances that from great performance tonight to honor all of our educators and our supporters and allies alike. And then we also have a few prospective speakers to kind of share with you tonight, and then we will get you home out of the blizzard. But as Ms. Chong Yang has said, we've crossed the Mekong. A couple more minutes, and we're gonna be right there with you. So right now, I'd like to welcome to the stage Ms. Chair of tonight's gala, super hardworking woman right here, the principal at Susan B. Anthony Middle School in Minneapolis Public School. And Ms. Maipacher Johannessen-Hawkins is gonna do the next piece here, but while she's speaking, I'd like for all of you guys to, as quietly as possible, open up the bottle that's on your table and fill your cups. Fill it thy cups.
All right, so good evening. I hope you're enjoying the program thus far. So the weather person came and spoke to me, and the weather person said the snow is tapering off. So they gave us permission to continue with the program past 8. So I'm letting you know now that the snow is tapering off. So if you stay on a little bit longer, the plow people will get to the roads, so that way you can go home safely. So right now, the plow people are outside, so let them plow, and then you can make your way home. There's still plenty of snacks. So while you're opening the sparkling juice with lots of flavors, be very careful. And just to kind of move along with our program, I do want to take this time to honor, celebrate, and recognize our phenomenal Hmong educators. This includes teachers in the house tonight. We have associate educators, we have administrators, we have associate educators, clerical, human resource, custodial, volunteers, lots of people in the house tonight. One thing I do want to point out, someone wrote a message recently about educators and who can be educators and who can be here tonight, and you do not have to be licensed to be here tonight. So I want to point that out, that it's really important that we have a range of folks here today. So at this time, I would like to recognize our folks that have been teaching or been in education for 16 plus years. So those of you that have been here for 16 plus years, you would have received a gold pin as you came in. I want you to please stand up. Stay standing. If you've been in education for 20 plus years or 16 plus years, please stay standing. Take a look around you. Make note of those folks. Those of you that the next group is those that have the silver pin, 6 to 15 years. Stay standing. The gold, stay standing. The silver, stand up. Bronze, 1 to 5 years, new to education. And then the pearl white, our supporters, our aspiring educators, our guests, our family members, please stand up. And then anybody that's still sitting, please stand up. We're going to do some exercises, right? Get your blood flowing a little bit. So at this time, please raise your glass. I have the honor of leading us in a toast to our educators this evening, so cheers.
just want to say how proud I am of us putting our speakers in the alignment that we did. I felt like the Spirit spoke even before the event happened with Miss Chong Yang, with her amazing poetic speech leading us into the toast. And then Principal Mai Chang leading the toast for years of service. Thank you to all of our teachers so much for everything that you've done and everything that we know you will continue to do. And thank you, Minnesota Zej Zog, for being champions of that. Next, we have Kevin Xiong. So a little treat while we finish our treat. I know it's just juice, but you can pretend. So put a little more in your cup. And if you walk crooked, I'm questioning what you actually drank, okay? So next we have Kevin Xiong. Kevin is a paraprofessional at Prairie Seeds Academy in Brooklyn Park. He has become a YouTube social media sensational with the song Sap Sap. He's here to share his talent with us tonight. So let's see what he has in store. Everyone, round of applause for our artist, Kevin Xiong.
Is mine. I brought my lyrics because I wanted to do a really good job for you all tonight. Hi, Xiong, Kevin Xiong. I am a local Minnesota artist, and yeah, shout out to Prairie Seeds. I know my Prairie Seeds family is here as well too over there. And also shout out to Miss Pang Yang for always believing in me and thinking of me. So yeah, I'm super happy to be here tonight. Pachia, if you like it, it's on YouTube. I'm going to be doing an acoustic version for you all tonight. And this song is about domestic violence, but the lyrics are very, very poetic, so enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kevin. That's what's so amazing about educators. Being an educator, it's what they give. And they give day in and day out. But inside, all of our educators are such artists and such skilled individuals. And very often, all we focus on is them being teachers and educators, and we forget the whole. We forget the talented, the giving piece that it's not shared enough. So I'm so happy and so honored that all of you guys are here today to just witness this amazing performance from many of our educators and supporters tonight. Thank you so much, Kevin. All right, and next, I'd like to call to the stage 3 key individuals that are going to do a quick speech each to give perspective to academia, the world of academia, whether they are parents or students themselves or elders in our community. So we gave to them each this question: what do you envision for the future for Hmong educators? What are your hopes and dreams? I'd like to welcome to the stage Yakao, Pachia, and Kajai Xiong. Big round of applause for these 3 individuals. And Mr. Yakao is going to be first. He is going to be giving us a few words from the elder perspective.
Do I have time? My wife's cousin told me that I only got 5 minutes. So at 5 minutes, I stand here shaking and take a breath, and that's it, 5 minutes. So I am not here to make commercial about my life. I was a teacher, and a teacher is very low class. So I continued my career through University of French and Lao. So I graduated of baccalaureate. I go to France, I come to be a professor, and I don't want to talk the past. Just forget it if you don't have time. So, right now what I do, I am a writer. My first book, A Moon Boy Story, sold about 2,500 copies. And I'm a writer. And I also an editor. You have a story you read it in Hmong, you don't know what to do with your story to finish after a book. I'm an editor, I'm a publisher too. That's my job. So, I only got 5 minutes. Here is for you guys. It's a great honor to be here in front of a crowd of proud teachers who you represent. You are the most important and respectful person guiding little children and grown children to the bright future. I salute you and I applaud you. For the great goodness as I was one. Being a teacher, I consider we look like a boat that carry passengers from this side to the other side of the bank. And where there, those passengers, they find their way. They look their own way to be teacher, to be professor, to be lawyer, to be whatever. And this is my story. I felt like I'm a boat that carry people here to there and there. And because before they left my boat, they even hit, the boat, they even step on the front of the boat, But they are lawyer, professor, teacher, because I'm on the boat that carry them. So that's my 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Yakao. That's from elder perspective. And now we have Ms. Pachia, which is from a parent's perspective.
Thank you. First of all, I wasn't sure if my speech today was supposed to be in Hmong or English, and so I decided to go with Hmonglish. Good evening, everyone. I'm honored to have been invited to be a part of tonight's Hmong Minnesota Educators Coalition Gala. I have 4 children who attended Osseo Area Schools District 279. My children and I have the privilege of working with Ms. Peng Yang, Ms. Sydney Chang, and Mr. Sing Lee, amongst a few other Hmong teachers and staff in the district. My children attended the same schools I attended growing up, which is a great opportunity for me to be able to see the changes in my school system or the school system. Growing up, I didn't have any Hmong teachers or staff in my school, so I felt an intense obligation to learn the English language in order to help myself, my parents, and to keep away the bullies. With this experience, I promised myself that I would help my children learn the English language so that they wouldn't experience these hardships as I did. However, this did backfire. We focused so much on learning the English language and culture that we forgot our own. I feel like it's probably a little too late because it's such a foreign language to them that they can't speak it and they can't pronounce the Hmong words very correctly. Share the same experience as me. rong thiệt là họ mua mental health ô được biết chỉ bỏ cả hạt tiền muốn chạy cái bác hạt tử ta chỉ cô chú liên tu cho sa tới cho angels là ba thiên cô tao chỉ cho rong này khu Lee Miss Peng Yang Miss Sydney Chang thiên liaison Mr. Lee Mr. Singh Lee do vì một cho home teachers thiên staff trong nó in which my children and I could identify with that I feel like my children were saved. Lo te pe ohlo ke very closely lo shi tia ji ha tia ya ba in te ke ba pe ka mi yo li ka. Pe ka mi yo ji bo ha lo mo lo ke school staff no ke home teachers no lo ban che ni te lo ban che program no ba pe ka mi yo ka lo bo lu mo ka lo bo cha pe home history te pe home culture. Pe ka mi yo mo ke yo shia lo ke home staff no lo ba pe when it zilan tia ke la ba de la ke yo shia the mon teachers test down la ji ha la to la sa ho lu ta e mo che lo pu jong su. This is not a 7 to 3 or 9 to 5 job for them. I believe that this is their passion. They're here to teach, to love, and to grow with our children and our family. A prime example is when one of my younger sons noticed that I was attending many events that Miss Yang was coordinating. Though he's never met Miss Yang personally, he knew enough to ask me, Mommy, why does Miss Yang not have any children of her own? Does she not love them? How come she's always doing stuff with her students, even after school? And I told him, no, she and her husband have many kids, but she loves her students just as she loves her own kids. And her children also help Miss Yang with her students and her events. And so he replied to me that he couldn't wait to go to high school so that he could meet Miss Yang and be a student of one of her Hmong language classes. It melted my heart to see his excitement, and it reminded me of how proud and lucky I am to know such a dedicated teacher such as Miss Yang. These teachers do not get enough credit. They spend so much of their personal time and money so that their children can have the best learning experience. They also build trust with their students and families and continue this relationship for many years, and even so, especially when it's with someone you can identify with. The importance of having home teachers and staff is so that we can all relate to each other, not just literally, but most importantly, culturally. They understand why we do the things that we do. They get us to connect with our children in ways that we never thought we could. Because unfortunately, our children are not born with a user's manual. Jokes aside, Gugu Jong Xie De Mui Ku Xie Jong La Lu Te La Ba Be Jami Du Min Yo. Jia Lu Le Su De Xie Lu Be as a family. La Ko Ke Be Ha De Be Yo Oi Jan Lian Te Zi Jong De Be Jami Yo Li Jia. La La Che Be Te Be Jami Yo Ka La Ka Dau Ka Dau Mu Ka De Ko Te Ya De Be Jami Yo Ya La Yun Che Te O Ka La Mu Ki Jong Xie Te Ke Ka Xie. Chỉ ta nên là chú tập ấy ôn điều gì là lu pia là chú kia trong tập ấy cho mình nhỏ. Our children are well and successful because of these amazing educators such as you. Thank you, and thank you. Ôi cho nên tao cho chua tu ở young home educator to staff. Thank you for your love, your service, and commitment to our children and our families. Cô lo lu cơ na kịp của xã thọ cả ba chữ yếu sâu bọn nên rất kỳ lưu được bây giờ mình nhỏ thọ cả là phòng công phòng hồn đến đây thế nên chuyện nên cả chuyện gì cái nào khác nhau rồi xem vậy chứ.
Thank you so much to Pachia for sharing a mother's perspective and giving such great testimony. And now, last but not least, Ms. Kajai Xiong to speak on behalf of a student's perspective.
So I was also told that I have 5 minutes, so I won't waste any time. shara o cho ni chi mo lu ki fi to ku lo hai lu mo no thia the no glum be hu o Kajai Xiong ku ton da lu che kan da hu o Patrick Henry High School ta chi no ku ka ki ko I ku ka she trong hai tia ku ching lo ya ku ta hai lu she nei lo lo to ka ni ja lu chi pu ro ku thia ku cho lu mo chơi xì có tư đó nên cả đó cả đó nên một xì lo lu tư chỉ trong xì trong một chiếc đồ họ xia ku cần tới tàu cha có ý lu Xiong nó lờ ôi tuần sai cần tới yêu chỉ mỗi tu si phu khen tới đâu yêu nhiều chỉ chơi nên si phu yên mua chong để si yon chơi tu si phu ở khen tới tàu chong thế tàu cho tàu chong nếu chúng moi chơi xứ để cho si phu ở tàu khen tới đâu ku mua cho chong thế mua cho yêu ông bao số cho chính trai chan trai đá lúc này nè nó giờ hay tiề yêu khen tao tới trong lò giờ yêu chỉ cho lúc xe trong nên từ đó yêu chỉ nhà yêu mong chỉ lúc mong là giá cũng muốn cho họ từ lò cho nó lột thua bé hay tiề mình nhom mong mi cá chỉ bao hai luôn mong mình nhom mong mi cá đùa chỉ bao mong kể dài mình nhom mong chỉ bao lúc nè lúc gì mong cho chơi khó dễ khó thua lúc từ luôn thấy tao ý xúa yêu chơi chia trong lời cùng mà đọc cá tao khen này từ khi cụ thọ có bé sờ bảo tu养子nó yêu trong chế từ mỗi yêu lúc sẽ giàu lời trong một chế lời tu chỉ hay cho bé cho sĩ phứ hay cho bé mong sờ có bé cho li nó lời lúc này nè nó chỉ hay bé hay ni mong sư sờ yên trai trả yêu hay ni tu nó bé mong chọn chơi có bé cho cá chia sẻ và mình từ ba chỉ đua khó khăn lúc này tu cố cá mong nhau mong ít tha mong hay mong lù mong ôn lê ôn tê mong chim mong trời mong cá ly kể dài từ khi bé chỉ nhớ trâu lúc này cố cá lờ tê lâu ít chỉ bị cho lù hay tiền lại đây vừa tàu lấy khao chỉ tê chờ chờ vừa tàu lấy hao nhẹ nhớ nhẹ trâu ý lung tu nhẹ vừa chịu tàu dùng nhẹ ý tu dài bé mong trâu lo nhỏ bé in cho nhỏ xí xử lý lo lờ từ khi do hai tia bé sợ đời xa có bé luôn bé mong đón trò lý luôn cú xa hai tia tê lâu yếu chịu cho lời lưu hư chỉ thế dùng ý chồng tuôn chạy luôn tao cho mong tôi dàn chữ theo lưu công minh yếu chịu tao bảo đã giờ bé hay in ra mong bị cả in ra lùng hông lò cho thuật thuộc bé đã giờ bé chỉ chơi drop ló cái là lò cho kể bé lúc này nè nó bé sợ đời yếu chịu tao bảo cái cờ lùm mông thế cờ cá ly kế chạy mông nhưng chỉ chính thế chứ xin cho bé quan ninh mông cú lúc học thiết đâu giá tới đây nó cú xa cờ bé cho mình tung mình nhỏ yếu chịu bao hai lúc mông thế cờ tới mông để chỉ lúc ninh tới đây nó thao ní cho lo lời chê thế cho bé cho mình tung mình nhỏ yếu chịu bao hai lúc mông lờ đã giờ hai tiệp bé chỉ chơi hai lúc mông lờ lò cho bé chưa tao học bé lúc ba thứ hai tiệp bé do họ bé tôi họ từ lò thế bé tụi cha chê giờ lò họ từ lò lúc bé muốn yên chỉ lo đi cú trong xe hai tia chỉ cần tới mua giống chỉ cần tới mua tàu si phú khen tới mua giống bé sẽ đợi yên chỉ trong cơn gạo ba chính lúc bé muốn chê muốn nhớ trên nếp mua giống trâu hậu lúc cán thu cứ nó chỉ lo vì hai tia bé tàu chính lúc bé muốn nó chê tông bé lo lờ cú sa có bé sẽ đợi cho nó cả bé bao công giờ chữ ở tàu nhẹ chỉnh thầu lũ ninh thoa nà trâu lô chạy chủ thầu tư ní bóng xía thằng cho các chồng hay tiền ní ông mong ý hay ninh ở chỉ giờ tu nông cụ thọ khối ní sợ đời thầu có ní nó cá nhau chồng giờ cụ hai lũ ý lo lũ ở châu khối ní nó xứ lo cho xả lý già ở châu thank you everyone.
And that was Kajai Xiong, so poetic. I really enjoyed it. I teach Hmong at the U of M too, and I give that A++. She read it all too, very fluently. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now we have the honor of welcoming Ms. Maipacher Johannessen-Hawkins to the stage to wrap up our event tonight with her artistry. Maipacher Johannessen-Hawkins is a mother, poet, artist, homeschool teacher, and teaching artist. She is passionate about mental health and working with youth
and has been active in the Hmong community, leading workshops and sharing her craft. I kid you not, you will not be disappointed, as you have not been, I'm sure, with any of our speakers tonight. Round of applause, please.
Hello, okay. I'll be honest, I'm really scared. I'm really nervous. When Pang asked me to perform, my immediate thought was no. I come from I'm an educator too, but I come from a non-traditional educating system. I'm a homeschool mom. I'm an online teacher, a tutor, and I'm a teaching artist. And so my immediate thought was no, because I felt like I didn't come from the same space. But if you know Pang, she's very convincing. And when I was responding with her, I was kind of asking questions, really to buy myself time to think about it. But then she so lovingly said, but you are an educator, and you do this work, and you're this and you're that. And I'm like, okay. So I signed myself up for it. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that no matter what field of work, what kind of department, what title we hold, as educators, I think we all share the same heart, and that is for our children. I homeschool, but I homeschool my children specifically. But I've gotten the honor to teach in the classroom with Zej's students. She's here today. I've also been able to work with iStrive as a mental health and writing workshop teacher. And so I've gotten to learn the stories of many youth, right? And it's funny how when you're in the thick of it, your emotions are really big. Everything that you're going through is so raw and so real. Now that when you're 32, everything seems not so difficult, right? But listening to these stories, all the emotions came right back. To that little girl that was in the classroom, that little girl, at home, that little girl that was trying to fill up these big roles that I think my parents had for me, my community had for me. I'm gonna get to the poem soon, but I wanted to say that also to remind and I guess honor everyone here that as educators, you do more than just teach. Fortunately and unfortunately, sometimes you are the only adult role model to some of the kids that you teach. So you wear many hats. You're a parent, right? You're a counselor. You are a mentor. You're a friend. And then you have to teach on top of all of that. So it's very hard, but this poem is to honor that. This poem comes from that space. And I also just want to say, I appreciate very much all the care and love that everyone has for Harding, because I'm actually a Harding graduate. So for me, that's home, right? So to have all these neighboring friends around me recognize that it's very special. All right, so I cannot top what Kajai just did. My poem is going to be Hmong and English, so bear with me. Just follow along with what you can, and as Willie Jette always had, Xiong Unapologetically Hmong. This poem is very raw and fresh, so I'm going to read off of this too. There's a world outside my door. I don't know it anymore. I'm gonna stay here now. I'm gonna stay here now. Close the curtains, cut the lights. Match the darkness to my mind. It's gonna bring me down. It's gonna bring me down. Pachia Bounthavy Thao
Kunya Jamdundi, Janyo Jamdundi. You love the way mothers do, hold the way fathers do. You pluck the stars and hand feed the mouths of academic hunger starved for a little while. You hold the glimmer of hope at your fingertips. You hold the vowels, hold them long, hold them short, hold them slow. You draw the lines, draw the curves, dot the I's and cross the T's. You leave no work undone. Ole, short Yakao, Lao Chi, Yakao, Kajai, Unapologetically Hmong. You hold gravity on your shoulders like a learned muscle. You write lessons into the night, you tossed and turned, you churned and raged, you sober, slow, restless, and awake. You lift the apostrophes and lay the commas. You dance quotations around a beautiful phrase. You remind to annotate and build essayists. You paint landscapes from astrophysics to the silkworms of China, to the Great Sphinx of Giza, French words, American history, and the Secret War. You raise children out of Bounthavy Thao and Ate. It is tumultuous work that you do, deafening, rewarding, a challenge. Phoojywj, you know a child better than their parents do. You know how their earthquakes, a family breaking, a parent's divorce, a young child's heartache, hidden from the ribcage of a hummingbird's wings, cadenced chorus, arriving to its debut. You lead children to the high noon, saying, see how the sun shines for you. But like Homer's Odyssey and the tragedy of Hamlet, it is not easy being. So from your back pockets, lift out paint and brush. Lift fresco into the afternoon light. From the walls of your mouth, from Daejong to school hallways, you are unfailing love. You unwavering punye. Accustomed to this unaccustomed earth. You outstretch arms toward a young child's stuttering voice. You offer the world. Dancing in big, boisterous, loud arms, you are amazing. You love the way mothers do. Hold the way fathers do. You pluck the stars and hand feed the mouths of academic hunger starved for a little while. You hold the stardust glimmer of hope at your fingertips. And now I know there's a world outside my door. I forced my feet down to the floor. I'm gonna make it out. I'm gonna make it out. Take a breath and say a prayer. Find the strength in my despair. It's not gonna take me down. It's not gonna take me down. Watch out.
Good evening again. Wow, that was one impressive poem. So let's give it up one more time to Maipacher. I know folks are really anxious, but I have the best job in the world, so just hang tight. If you are worried about e-learning and all of that, have your principal contact me, and I'll give you a pass. So at this time, I would like to call up our MC, Phoojywj. We want to recognize her. I told her she better come back from Vegas. She was at Vegas emceeing. I just want to make sure she was here tonight. So thank you, B. I know you've been working really hard as well too. So we just want to recognize you as well. All right. So other than running the presentation and everything else in between, I have the best job, like I said, and that is door prizes. So the two folks that haven't claimed their massage from back over there, we had a couple of massage prizes earlier, then folks already claimed them, but we have, if I say your name wrong, please excuse me, Jamie Moore, Concordia? Yes. Coming up. And then C. Yi Yang, Washington Tech, coming up. All right, can I get a drum roll? Come on. So, this is for a $500 voucher. So if you don't want it, I'll take it because you can fly anywhere warm. And it's courtesy of a private donation. So, if I can get, let's see, who would like to come up? You're looking dead straight at me, Willie Jette. So come on up. All right, can I get the honor? We have, folks had to fill out a little slip over there in order to be in the drawing as well too. So the person wrote, yes, I love to travel, exploring, and sightseeing. From Hope Community Academy, Miss Meng Kong Bing. All the details are on this panel right here. And then we have another private donor for a weekend cabin retreat worth a value of $1,000. And you're looking straight at me, so come on up. Chong Yang, can you do the honors? We have Chong Xiong of Failing Lake. She wrote, because I need to see the beauty of the people and land that I love, that I've heard so much about. So a couple of housekeeping items before you head out. So if you parked on the Treasure Island ramp, there are $6 vouchers being sold at the registration table when you came in. If you parked anywhere else, that's on you. And then we have a couple events that are coming up. So please mark your calendar. We have on April 23rd a movie showing. On your tables, if you want to take a photograph of the flyer, there's only one per table. Saya Luna at St. Kate's University, so hopefully you can attend that. It's going to be an awesome video on there. You can scan the QR code and view the preview of the movie. And then on July 29th and 30th, we have our annual retreat. So please follow us on Facebook. And then lastly, before you head out, if you could please return your name tags so we can reuse them. Other than that, safe travels and good night. Thank you.
And I just want to say a quick thank you to all of our volunteers, our stage ushers, all the folks who help cut fruits, decorate, and everything else. Thank you so much for making this gala a success tonight. And thank you all loving friends and families that are here to support our educators. Thank you. Have a good night. Safe drive.
Lord, Yakao